I thought we could do something a little different today and take a look at a few clips of the Trump cabinet itself speaking, as it now almost comically is filled with 9 billionaires and counting. But remember, guys, this is definitely not the establishment or the elites. These billionaires are for the working class, and that's why it's also filled out with lifelong war hawks like Marco Rubio, Mike Huckabee, Mike Waltz, and more. I just thought that it might be insightful to kind of look at what some of the main players of these appointments are saying and doing, and how they want to represent themselves leading up to their confirmation.
Senator David Perdue bragged under oath about how he spent most of his career outsourcing American jobs to China. He operated factories in Shenzhen province in China in cooperation with the Chinese Communist Party, and he should explain that on the record.
Your chance, Senator.
We did exactly that in 2014, and we were elected by 8 points. We did it again in this election. We were elected by 2. We just missed this runoff by a few thousand votes.
I mean, come on, like how much more out in the open about what you're going to do can you get? This is Trump's ambassador to China, who has been on record bragging about outsourcing American jobs to China because they're cheaper, doubling down in an interview on Fox News about doing it for at least a decade because, hey, he still gets elected. Like, he's like, who cares now? Because, Republicans, they won the election, so they can just be honest about these things. I mean, it's almost funny at this point, right? The two things that MAGA talked about the most as like talking points against Biden and Democrats is they're moving our jobs overseas and they're working with the Chinese Communist Party. Like, they investigated Biden for 2 years for this, saying that it's like some evil thing and, we have to elect Trump to end this. That's the only way to put an end to this. And then Trump goes and almost immediately picks someone as ambassador to China, who will like be in charge of our affairs with China, who openly outsources American jobs to China and has worked hand in hand with the Chinese Communist Party, and who admits it again. Like, none of this is denied. He brags about doing it in interviews on Fox, and yet MAGA somehow still wants to convince themselves, do this like pseudo mental gymnastics to convince themselves that Trump is still the answer to all these things that he led you to believe was the Democrats, just to distract them from the fact that he actually plans to do them himself.
Nothing is sacrosanct. Nothing. They're going to put everything on the table.
That's what they told lawmakers. Everything is on the table, and that includes Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
And this is Ralph Norman, who is in the DOJ committee on the actual government side, who will actually have more of like the pulling of the levers, so to speak, and getting these cuts passed, who with Fox News now in this interview is openly admitting, yes, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are indeed on the table for us to cut. Things they swore this entire campaign cycle, hey, we're not even thinking about touching this. We would never go after Social Security. So as we all on the left warned, they were completely lying. This was another Trump fabrication. He tried doing it in his last term, and of course, he's going to try doing it again. And this whole committee was sold behind this allure of, oh, we're going to go after pointless bureaucracy. We're going to reduce headcounts in useless departments and save waste because Democrats are wasting money, even though, Republicans, last time they had all control of Congress, they added $7.8 trillion to our federal deficit before COVID. Let's forget that though. But it's actually, like, instead of them wanting to protect healthcare and Social Security through cutting these things, it's the second they get the majority, well, we actually might have to cut these things. I'm sorry to tell you guys, which is why, again, we can never let these people pretend for a second, like when they don't have power, that they aren't going to cut these things, because they're just slimy snakes who will switch the second they can. And it's something they always need to be held to account for. And I think one major mistake we made during this election was not making it a big enough deal during the cycle. Like, Democrats actually just capitulated this talking point and allowed Republicans to get away with selling we don't want to cut your Social Security or social program stick. And now they're literally going to go instantly for it.
Our investigation must continue, I believe, to let the American people know the truth, even if these pardons are taking place.
Congressman, everything you said is really important, the American people, because the media didn't cover, and watchdogs have been criticizing them for not covering what you've been talking about for a long time. And the other thing, too, is the wording of the U.S. Constitution shows it's unconstitutional to do preemptive pardons. So show the wording of the Constitution. It doesn't see anything. It says pardons for offenses, not future offenses or potential offenses down the road. That means Biden's blanket pardon of Hunter Biden can be challenged and thrown out in court.
I agree, and I think it should be. And I think that you'll see members from the Oversight Committee and other committees that have worked so diligently on this try to seek out those arguments, because our investigation.
I know she's not a cabinet pick per se. I mean, yet at least who knows, right? But I wanted to add this one in because it's like, this is obviously why Biden pardoned Hunter, right? This is why he changed his mind. Like, look at this. Look at how these people are acting and what they are doing. They are quite literally obsessive freaks. The amount that they like to pretend that the left just has this deep hatred and it causes this massive obsession with Trump that isn't healthy, and it makes them want to weaponize the Justice Department and system against them. It's wild how these same people just shrug off this kind of behavior where MAGA is now just like, well, despite a pardon, we're going to continue to investigate a private citizen, mind you, in Congress. We're going to investigate a private citizen in Congress because that's completely normal. And we also are going to contest the pardon in court of a private citizen. Like, it's crazy to me. Trump was legitimately found guilty on 34 felonies, right? Had 54 other indictments hanging over his head. And just like he just won this election, nothing materially changed with the evidence of any of these crimes or cases. No pardon was given, right? No appeals were made. Nothing of the matter in terms of an actual legal sense. And just because he won the election, Democrats are like, okay, well, we want to respect democracy. And now he'll never get sentenced for his convictions. He'll never get tried for any of his other charges for literally launching the biggest coup against our democracy ever and instilling fake electors to try to steal an election. Never get charged for any of this, right? For no actual legal reason, again. And yet Republicans will say still, Democrats are obsessed with targeting Trump. Yet you watch the tables get turned, and Hunter is then investigated in Congress by Republicans for 2 years for revenge, mind you. No actual legitimate reason. They couldn't find anything on him. Not a single shred of evidence on him of any of these massive claims that they said they would. That is why they started these investigations anyway, and they smeared him by saying that they would definitely be able to prove. And in order to just not look like complete idiots who wasted a bunch of taxpayer dollars and everyone's time and all of this for political reasons, which is exactly what they did, they just drummed up some like random charges as a. And well, here's the first thing, right? These random charges that as a baseline, their own party doesn't even think should be illegal. Like, they openly go for or campaign to make these things not crimes. They're things that Trump has pardoned people for himself. Trump has pardoned people for himself and then appointed them to positions in his administration, mind you, like we're talking about like Charles Kushner, and that no private citizen would ever be charged with. And then Hunter receives a pardon for this. Yet Republicans are like, we can't drop this. We can't forget this. What a pardon. No, that's not enough. Like, we can never forget this, no matter what. We will keep investigating him until the end of time. And it's like, well, they're not obsessed. They're just doing what's right. Like, it's Joe Biden who lied. Like, hypocrisy this obvious used to be so disqualifying, and that's why we never saw it as such a normal thing. But now it's just like shrugged off. It's so weird to me. Even like on our side, people just see this kind of hypocrisy and then they try to like engage with it rather than being like, hey, you're just being hypocritical here. Like, it's crazy how conservatives just stop trying to even be any bit of consistent on anything, right? They don't care about consistency anymore. It's whatever way the wind blows to benefit them in that moment. And if you like call them out about consistency or anything like that, they're just like, well, the left is communists and, they want to trans the kids and all this weird stuff. And it's just like, no, it's just whatever is going to benefit you and your donors, of course, you're just going to say in that moment. And it's like, come on, what are we doing here?